Okay, welcome back. Let's jump right back in. So if you recall from the last video, we were talking about, what makes sound and what does it mean to be a wave and what does frequency mean. But I'm going to start today with a slightly different question. The question is, what makes a sound loud? And if you recall from yesterday, based on our discussion, right, we talked about sound. We're going to give an example here. Here's an air molecule, and you do something to this air molecule to make it move just a little bit. And that air molecule will then bump into maybe a couple other air molecules, and so on. Those will bump into more, right? Made this kind of a diagram. It'll sort of propagate throughout the room, sort of the technical term we use, right? It's how the sound spreads away and spreads out. So what makes a sound loud? Well, there's a few things. First of all, you might notice that a sound will be much louder the closer you are to it. And this kind of makes sense, right? If you see the total amount of energy that's in this one molecule here, well, energy can't be created or destroyed. So let's pick a different color here to highlight this. So this energy, at least it can be transformed, but it should be the same amount of energy that's in these four molecules over here, even though we're just passing the energy along, right? Once the energy is passed, it's no longer here. We're basically splitting up the energy into four pieces, right? If this one molecule then eventually turns into four molecules that are all moving because this first one was moved, right? It's this bucket brigade effect. So if you're standing right here, there's actually going to be a lot more energy hitting your eardrum, right? If this is the molecule that hits your eardrum, than if you're standing back here, right? This energy, each one of these molecules only has 1/4 the total energy. So because of that, I can just show you right now that the further you are away from something, the quieter it's going to be. And of course, half you guys are going, well, that's obvious, dumbass. But this is why. Okay, so this is very important to understand, especially when we're setting up microphones and multiple microphones. Mic placement you'll see this effect. Okay, but what actually means for a sound to be loud? Well, loudness is really equal to what we call amplitude. And for amplitude, what we're talking about is how far does this molecule actually move? With how much force does it bump into the next molecule? And the further it moves, the louder it is, or the more amplitude it has, to be more scientifically correct. So if this molecule just moves just a tiny bit, it's going to be very quiet. If this first molecule is going to move a lot, then it's going to have a very loud amplitude. And, if you've watched any of the previous videos, especially the audio editing one, the audio basics one, you would see a lot of sound waves that look like this on the screen in Cubase. And maybe they do this, and maybe they do this. And if you were paying attention, you'd notice that the loud parts basically have higher peaks and valleys than the quiet parts. Like right here, these are very tiny, right? Very small peaks and valleys compared to over here, right? I think you guys can see that. And basically, we're just measuring amplitude. When we're talking about audio files and sound waves inside the computer, really we're just measuring the amplitude at any given time. So we have time going left to right, and we have amplitude up and down. Notice this graph does not show us frequency directly. Okay, we'll talk about why that is in a future video. But for right now, we're just graphing amplitude over time. And so it's really easy to look at a sound file and tell me, or tell yourself, what parts of the sound file are going to be loud versus which parts are going to be quiet. Because this is, again, graphing how far is each of those molecules moving, and the quiet section, they're not moving very much, and that's very noticeable on screen. Okay, so that's what it means to be loud, or in other words, have high or quiet amplitude. All right, the next part of sound you need to understand is its velocity. And I know in the MIDI video we talked about velocity as far as MIDI. This is related, though somewhat different. I think I need a new color now. Don't you think it's time for a new color? Let's do black. We haven't done black yet. That's exciting. I think velocity should always be black. That just seems right. Here we go. So velocity is really the speed of sound, or how much momentum does it, not momentum, I guess it's a combination of resistance and momentum, does that energy have? And this will change depending on what type of material, what type of medium sound is traveling through. We already talked about sound is a wave that travels through a medium, meaning we need something for it to travel to. If we are in space and we're in the middle of, or we'll say the end of the Star Wars movie, and there's that giant Death Star thing here, and it's going to blow up. Right, there's my Death Star. It also looks like a one-eyed bad cartoon character. But that's my Death Star, believe it. I'll also make this look like a Death Star. I don't know, I need some shading or something. Okay, that's a Death Star, believe me. Alright, so when this thing goes, right, and blows up, we have a problem, right? Now, George Lucas wants you to be able to hear the Death Star blow up. I think I need orange for this, don't you think? Here's my Death Star blowing up color. Rah. Okay, it's going to blow up and go outward, right? And presumably, right, we're back somewhere over here in a spaceship. Here's my attempt at drawing a spaceship. I don't really think this is a good spaceship at all, but there's my rocket. Maybe there's my cockpit. Okay, so if this thing blows up, it's going to make a loud sound, obviously, right? Well, no, because we are in space. We're in outer space. Guess what space doesn't have? Well, it doesn't have a medium. So, yes, if we're right next to the Death Star and it blows up and it literally hits us, then we'll be able to hear the vibrations from it hitting us because it's hitting us. But otherwise, there's not enough mass in space for us to be able to hear it. That's pretty exciting, right? In the sense that, you know, sound does not exist in space. No one can hear you scream. Oh my God, it's so freaky. Okay, but that's space. We're not in space. Let's not worry about space right now. Let's talk about the planet Earth. Maybe you guys have seen some old-timey Western videos. And in those old-timey Western videos, you'll have your cowboys and you'll have your Indians and the railroads and saloons and arrows and I don't know, whatever they have. But something that the Indians always do, right? If they want to know that the cowboys are coming with all their horses or trains or whatever they have, you'll have them put their ear to the ground. So there's my person and there's his ear to the ground. Now, why would you do that? That seems like just a good way to get your ear dirty and full of mud. Right? This does not seem very hygienic. Well, sound will travel better, often more efficiently if you prefer, through solids and sometimes liquids than air. Air is like a party. If you guys remember like third grade like science class, like air, the molecules are all kind of far apart like this, and they're all kind of doing their own thing, just kind of going, I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm bouncing, and they're just sort of in their own little world. Well, this is very different than in solids, especially if you take a piece of steel, where the molecules are all very tightly regimented, and it's sort of like a giant marching army, where they're all, you know, in formation and touching each other and as tightly packed as possible. So what happens is, if you bounce or move one of these molecules, in other words, you make a sound, what's going to happen is this molecule will kind of go over here and bounce this one, and maybe this guy will come over here and bounce this one, maybe. Okay, it's very haphazard. Whereas, the second I touch one of these, the sound travels very easily throughout the rest of them. Okay, it's like the message is passed along perfectly. It's sort of like the game Telephone. If you guys were ever kids and you've played the game Telephone, right? The first person says something silly like, oh, the elephant was outside today. That's stupid, but let's say that's your friend Jimmy and he's kind of slow, so that's what he comes up with for telephone. And he whispers it to the second person. And instead of the second person hearing the elephant was outside today, the second person hears something like what the hell rhymes with elephant? The telephone was bloutside today? That doesn't make any sense, but that's what, you know, your friend Johnny hears, and he passes it along to Kimmy, and, you know, Kimmy hears the pedophile was... This is going in a bad place. Okay, but you get the idea, right? The message is passed along very inefficiently, okay? But that's like what air is when it deals with sound, right? It's very inefficient, it's not exact. Whereas, if you ever tried to play telephone with a bunch of people in the military, well, they're trained to do this. They're trained to pass information along very quickly, right? If you tell the first sergeant, oh my God, the enemy is coming, well, he's going to pass it along to the next, 3 or 4 people very efficiently, okay, so no problem. So in a piece of metal like that, you actually have sound travel 3 or 4 times faster than you would through air. And not only will it be faster, but it'll be more efficient. You will lose less energy. It'll spread out less. A whole bunch of nice things happen. So this is why, they would put their ear to the ground or the train track in order to hear whatever is coming, because you can hear it from much further distance because of that efficiency. Now, I say sound travels 3 or 4 times faster through metal, but how fast does it travel through air, period? I mean, how do we measure it? Especially compared to light. And this is, let's go to a new page here, a really just a common misconception for a lot of my students is, what travels faster? Is it, who would win in a foot race, light versus sound? And again, I like to ask this before I just explain everything we just explained. I just sort of ask them straight up, okay, who would win in a fight, light or sound? Not a fight, but a race. And, most of them will say, well, light, but we're not really sure. Maybe it'll be like 60-40, right? Light versus sound. Or if I have a particularly smart class, maybe 75-25. But there's still a number of people that say, sound goes pretty fast. And those people are right in the sense that sound does go fast. Through room temperature air, sound goes about 1,130 feet a second. Okay, so that's pretty fast, right? 1,130 feet a second. Think about that. That's fast. Light, however, goes about 186,000 miles a second. I think it's miles. Is it kilos or miles? Kilometer? I think it's miles. I apologize to all our international friends who are using kilometers. Or actually, I don't. They should apologize to us because we're the ones that this is crazy. Miles are stupid. We should be using this. But that's besides the point, okay? So 186,000 something a second. Now what's bigger, 186,000 something miles a second or 1,130 feet a second? If you guys don't know about feet, this is like a third of a meter. So this is no contest, right? A mile, if you know, is 5,280 feet. And I'm telling you, it goes 186,000 of those in a second versus just 1,130 feet, period. Okay, so light wins, right? Light is the Superman, okay? That's not a Superman icon, but you guys can pretend. Superman, okay? Light wins, super fast. Actually, be more like the Flash, I guess, if we're doing comic books. Maybe sound is Superman. Besides the point, again, I'm distracting myself. All right, so light wins, hands down. And this is why, if you were to go to a baseball game, and again, if you're maybe from Britain or something, maybe you play cricket, I don't know. Pick some sort of outdoor sporting event that has a event that you all see and hear. And in baseball, if you know how baseball's played, there's a giant field. Here's the inner part of that field called the diamond. Right, here's the field. There's your baseball field, in case you don't know. And let's say you have the really crappy seats all the way over here. That's supposedly you. I'm not sure how that's supposed to look like a human, but it does. We're going to pretend. So here's your baseball field, right? And everyone in this stadium is watching what's happening over here, right, at home plate, where you have a batter. There's my batter. That kind of looks like a human. That's pretty good. And he's holding a bat, though usually not with one hand, though I'd like to see someone bat in the major leagues with one hand. That'd be pretty exciting. And there's a pitcher, and the pitcher throws a ball, right? And you're like this. And what the batter does, he swings the bat and hits the ball, and this is what makes baseball fun. Well, in my opinion, I don't know, I'm not a big baseball fan. That's what's supposed to make baseball fun. So, here's the weird part. Here's where sound comes in. If you are sitting all the way back here, remember this is you, maybe I should draw a new one. Nope. It's not going any better. How about you? That one. Nope. There, you're wearing a hat and have mufflers on. Don't know why. Okay, that's you. So you're sitting all the way over here. Well, you now have you're maybe 500 feet away. Maybe even a little bit more than that, maybe 550 feet away, depending on the size of the stadium and whatever. Well, light is going to hit you from this event, right? As soon as the batter swings, you're going to know about it, right? Light travels super, super, super fast. But you're also far enough away to know that when he actually swings the bat, it's going to hit the ball and make a sound, but that sound only goes 1,130 feet a second. Well, if we're 560 feet away, what that means is really we're only going to, cover half that distance in a second. So we're actually not going to hear the sound until half a second later. And that half a second later is quite noticeable. You guys can do lots of things in half a second, right? I mean, I can actually say probably about 7 words in half a second, I think. 7 words in half a second, and I don't want to try now because I'm distracting myself, okay? But there's a lot of things you can do in half a second. That's a very noticeable amount of time, right? Right? There's about a half a second. So when you are sitting in a baseball diamond like this, you have this problem. You'll see the batter swing and hit the ball, and and then half a second later you'll hear it. And for the most part, it might not bother most people, but again, if you're in tune with sound and acoustics at all, like it kind of drives me nuts a little bit. I mean, the first few times it's kind of fun. It's like, whoa, reality didn't line up, right? Like reality skipped a beat, right? The sound and the light happened at different times. That's just because sound is slow, super slow. Okay, so that's going to conclude this this video. We're going to talk about some other acoustic things in the next video. Stay tuned.